What we need is an intro, like a funny bit that happens, and then music.
That's a big ask.
You think it's maybe asking a little bit too much?
Probably, yeah.
So we don't really have like an opening gambit, like a hook.
No, I think I feel like it's better just starting almost in the middle of a sentence.
So it's sort of like in medias res. Like, oh, we could do that thing where they sort of like begin a scene on TV and we like pretend that we were just having a laugh and having a bit of a joke. So there's like a joke that is explicitly unfunny, but might have been funny if you heard the beginning of it.
Are you going for like a ha ha ha, oh, when did you get here type of terrible, awful thing?
Turns out he had no eyes. Oh, hello. Didn't see you there, listeners.
Oh, God, that would be the worst.
Well, that's what we're going with.
Ah, God damn it.
I'm beginning with feedback.
Okay.
Feedback and follow-up, I think, as they call it in the podcasting world.
Yeah.
So, a couple of things. We've got some feedback from the previous one of these that we did.
Yeah.
First of all, I should confess that the feedback has been overwhelmingly upsetting.
Okay.
That is the term I'm going to use. I've had my feelings hurt.
Did any of it feel like a personal attack against you individually?
It got quite threatening at times, but most of all, it seemed to be, well, I can give you some responses right here.
Hit me.
I'm not reading out the fucking names. This isn't a place for random people to grandstand their unwashed and ill-conceived musings. That's our jobs, and we got here first.
We did.
Yeah.
I think we're the first people to ever do something like this.
So, first viewer feedback. I'm going with viewer feedback rather than listener feedback. Yeah, so first viewer feedback response was, we don't need another podcast.
Well, I mean, that's sort of the point of the whole thing, isn't it? That we don't need another podcast, so we're doing something completely different, and yet simultaneously very cliche.
I found it hurtful.
You found it hurtful?
I didn't like it. I didn't like what they said.
That you felt like they were using words as a weapon.
Yeah, I don't think they really considered how I felt on the person on the receiving end of their words.
You think that people do need another podcast?
Not even that, I didn't like the tone.
It was done with a very snidey tone, I have to say.
There's just another one that says fuck.
That's almost as non-eloquent as we were in the last podcast.
Shit you. There's another one.
Well, that's just a feat of grammar that I never thought I would see in my lifetime.
They said they don't like my hair.
Were they able to see your hair?
No.
They just didn't like the sound of your hair.
No.
Well, that seems very unfair, I have to say.
I didn't like it.
I'm not surprised. I would be very offended if, for example, someone said that they didn't like the sound of my beard.
Someone said that.
God damn it.
They said beard at you.
Just beard.
Beard oil.
Beard oil.
Beard oil. That's what they said.
Were all of these from Cleves?
He may be our number one fan.
Fan?
Harasser.
Are these from fans? Do we count these as fans?
They were in a folder that I have labelled fan mail.
Right. Is that just wishful thinking on your part?
Maybe.
Well, I mean, that's okay. I mean, where would this world be if not for wishful thinking?
It's interesting you ask where this world would be, because that's really what they want to know. They want to know where we are and how to find us.
Is that in the sense of they want to send us presents, or they want to put a brick through our window in some form of modern day Kristallnacht?
I mean, if you're like me and you have bricks on your Amazon wish list, then that could be a present of sorts.
It's just very aggressive delivery method.
Yeah, through the window, wanted to make it personal. Like how sometimes they'll leave a little note.
What have some of your notes said?
Piss.
Just the word piss, or just some piss?
Pisser, is what they said. They called me one. They said that I piss.
That's sort of just factual, really.
Wasn't very nice.
do you not like being reminded of your urinary functions?
I feel like it's declaring that I am not immortal and therefore will die one day. It's like reasserting that fact. Like, you are not above bodily functions. You have to excrete waste, therefore there is no eternal machine inside of you. You cannot preserve yourself for eternity, therefore you will die. It's like reminding me of the grave.
By calling you a pisser.
Yes, they might as well be like hammering a gravestone into my front lawn, which has also been done a few times.
A few times?
Yeah, a few times.
You have multiple gravestones in your front lawn. Are they all... Do they have any classy engraving?
No. One just says my name, and then just has the name of my hair on the other one.
The name of your hair? As in just Theo's hair?
Yeah.
Well, did you intend for yourself and your hair to be buried separately?
It actually is in accordance with my will, so I'm not going to judge them too harshly on that one.
If anything, that's just forward thinking of them.
Now I'm thinking about this in a new light.
It's as if they're saying, there is no need to fear this. There is no need to fear your rapidly oncoming demise, pisser.
Where are we?
Sorry, was that a rhetorical question, or were you expecting some kind of answer?
I was thinking about this. Right. Where is this podcast set?
It's... I can tell you where I am.
Don't do that. Don't do that, because they're listening.
Well, I was just going to do it in general terms. I wasn't going to give any specifics.
Like, on the surface of the planet.
I was going to go a little bit more specific than that. I wasn't just going to go, I am in a place. I was going to say, because I am currently in my defensive post-apocalypse bunker. I mean, I haven't looked outside in a while, but I'm fairly certain that the apocalypse has not, in fact, happened. But I came down here to just check on my canned goods and just make sure that everything was in place for the inevitable day when the Omega strike hits the world and we're all plunged into a sea of blood by the ancient and unspeakable ones. And I sort of the door shut behind me. Fortunately, I had some podcasting equipment with me, so I was able to set things up and actually start recording. But in many ways, I am trapped down here now.
I sort of assumed that from the beginning you were always planning to like broadcast a podcast to the world after the fall, the end of days. You'd still be there with a little computer that you've hooked up to a generator that you have to crank. It's got a big crank and you turn the crank.
Or perhaps I have some sort of mutant three-legged hamster on a wheel that has been ravaged by the radiation outside. So all it can do is just constantly run forwards. Otherwise, its skin will flake off and it will crumble into a mess of ash.
You hear the gears and the cogs grinding away, just grinding away as the hamster runs round.
Exactly. I mean, the audio quality of my post-apocalypse podcast is going to be horrible.
I mean, you're coming through very well. I imagine you have sort of like, we're going back to old tech here. You've got a dish up above on top of a rickety tower that you've built out of scrap and refuse.
Some part of me thinks that perhaps you're making fun of me, but that is exactly what my situation is right now.
You're going to have to eat your hamster one day.
I've come to accept that.
Have you already taken a bite?
Well, I mean, you've got to just make sure that the meat that you're going to consume is to your own taste. I've started feeding it a mixture of... are you aware of Kobe beef?
Is that a basketball player?
I can see why you would think that, but it's a type of beef which is incredibly flavorful and succulent. And anyway, I have fed that to a lobster, and then I have fed the lobster to my hamster just to make it that little bit more tasty for when I finally have to consume my only friend and power source in the post-apocalyptic wasteland.
That's going to be a sad day.
I'm pretty sure it'll be the most sad day of my life, but I came to accept that a long time ago. To be honest, now I'm looking forward to eating that hamster and leaving myself with absolutely nothing.
And if you're the only one who is left and you are really sad, well, there's nothing to compare it to because no one is having a good time. So you're just having a day.
So in many ways, I could be the happiest man on earth.
That's one way to look at it.
I like that. That's very optimistic of you. I feel like we should put some kind of rule in the rule book for being optimistic.
Rule doc. It is a Google doc.
Yes, it is a doc. I feel like we should put in a rule.
All right.
I'm going to put it in now because you have given me access to the rules. I'm going to put Rule 17, no cynicism.
God, that's going to be a tough one.
You've put a lot of tough rules on me, so I feel like I am overdue putting some kind of harsh rule against you.
Fair enough. We will talk about the apocalypse later. That is coming up in a section that I have entitled Quandaries.
Okay.
By the way, each podcast is now going to be split into 3 sections. Just give it some kind of structure, which we clearly desperately need.
So this is horribly violating Rule 14, no segments. Phil is allowed to have segments.
No, because these aren't segments. These are
right.
Regions.
Regions. Well, that's a very clever linguistic trick you've used to get out of one of your rules.
Yes. Well, these aren't segments because they're just very, very loose regions in which we can express ourselves. So, the first one is feedback.
Yep.
Although I think I'm going to have to change it to mean things have been said, hurtful time.
As a title, that's slightly clunky.
We'll just go with follow-up for now. Then we have a section called schemes.
Schemes.
And if we have any schemes, this will be the part of the show where we can talk about them and discuss them at length.
Okay.
But then the actual part of the podcast where it actually begins, where the meat is, will be quandaries.
Okay.
And those are going to be based on the topics I have pre-selected in the running order.
All right.
Because I've decided I don't want to entitle the episodes with the topic that they're about. The topic is for us. That's for us to muse on. And then the title will come from our musings. But we are still in feedback. So I just wanted to respond to the final viewer comments that we've got. So they want to know where we are.
Okay.
And I'm happy to put down post-apocalyptic nuclear bunker wasteland.
Yep, please do, because that is where I am, definitely.
But I think we're going to have to get around a couple of problems here. For one thing, we can't avoid the fact that we are in the UK. The listeners have got us banged to rights on that one. We can't say we're like Canadian or New Zealandish.
I feel like they've already got that piece of information because I can't see anyone calling a Canadian a pisser.
Damn it, yeah.
I mean, that might be a very broad sweeping statement by me, but that's just what I believe about people in the world today.
Dash it all, Phil, I think you're right. There is no way that we could be mistaken for anything other than British. And so, we have to come up with a place name, because I'd like to locate our ideas.
Okay.
I want to give the listeners a setting, a scene in which we exist. Even if it's not entirely true, it doesn't have to be a real place. It just has to be a place that captures the imagination, like Slough or Grimsby.
Okay.
But neither of those two places.
Because those two places are essentially miniature hells on Earth. Apologies to any viewers from Slough or Grimsby. But you know.
Yeah, they know. In fact, they'd kind of be offended if you patronised them and said something along the lines of, oh, it's not that bad. It is that bad. They know it.
Oh, isn't your horrible town a bit nice?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like when you're a kid and you scribble something on a piece of paper and someone says, oh, aren't you clever?
We don't want to treat our viewers like children.
Exactly. So, where were you born?
Where was I born?
Yeah.
Do you want facts or lies?
Facts.
I was born in
Portsmouth. Portsmouth. Can we have this podcast set in Portsmouth?
There's almost nothing in Portsmouth.
So that is a real contender then, because no one's going to know what we're lying about.
No.
Portsmouth. I was thinking maybe Basingstoke.
Basingstoke is also very nondescript. I feel like I'm cutting out vast swathes of our viewership, obviously, by just saying that all of these places are either horrible or nondescript.
That's kind of what makes them perfect as the setting of this podcast. Because I want it to be that when we come up with a scheme or a plan of some sort that involves us going out amongst the people and the locals, doing whatever it is we do, providing whatever service or performance that we come up with, I want our names to ring through the streets, bells and cheers, because we've done it again. The boys of Basingstoke have done it again.
They've done a scheme.
Yeah, they've done something.
So you seem quite enthused about Basingstoke.
We'll go for Basingstoke now, and if we change it, I'll go back and re-edit and replace it with the place name of our choosing.
Okay. So I'm still in my post-apocalyptic bunker.
But it just happens to now be located in Basingstoke, or near to Basingstoke.
And under Basingstoke, really.
Yeah, sort of like, I mean, is it really under it? Isn't it just kind of like in a bit of a ditch with a bit of a board, sort of leaning over the top?
I feel like you are horribly misportraying my post-apocalyptic bunker. It is more like if, say, I don't know, what's a nice hotel? The Hilton sort of sunk underground and then was just coated in sheet metal and filled with mutant hamsters and tinned goods. That is pretty much what my bunker is like.
Any sewage lines down there?
You're never going to be able to create a post-apocalyptic bunker without hitting a few sewage lines. But I mean, I have lots of plug-in air fresheners, so I think it should be mostly okay. Just don't go down to the sewage level.
How many levels are there of sewage?
I don't want to give an exact number, but I'd say anywhere between 75 to 92% of the bunker is full of sewage. I have shut the door of my bunker. I have an airlock in this room, but I'm looking out of the porthole right now, and it is sort of submerged in raw sewage right now. So
untreated.
Yeah. That's partly the reason that I'm trapped in here, is I really don't want to open the door.
Don't open the door.
I'm not going to open the door.
One final part I want to clear up, based on the feedback from the previous one of these. I do not have a point. And that is not, in itself, a point to be made.
Okay.
I just want to make that clear, right? Meaning, we're not trying to comment on the current popular consumption of podcasts in any way by starting a podcast that isn't really about anything. Rather, we're trying to express an emotional state that I've come to be believed that is informed by popular media. And this may or may not be applicable to anyone else. And even if it is not a shared feeling, then I still win. Because even if that success is really only a demonstration of how odd I am in an uninteresting way. So that is a gauntlet that I am throwing down to our viewers to say, whatever you think, this is the case, okay? There's nothing to see here. There's nothing going on. There's nothing subversive. This isn't clever. This isn't interesting.
So this is essentially a podcast entirely without merit.
Yeah, it's like being submerged in sewage.
Not literally, because it's horrible outside this room right now.
How many plug-in air fresheners do you have left?
I mean, I go through about 6 a day, and I woefully understocked before moving into this bunker. I say moving in, I mean trapping myself in here.
So by going through 6 a day, does that mean you had 6, plugged them in, and they ran out, and now you have none left?
Yes, that is exactly what I mean. I currently exist in a form of hell. This is a sewage-ridden hellscape of a post-apocalyptic bunker, and I'm regretting my decision to plough through every major sewage line underneath Basingstoke in order to build this place.
Would you say that this is a hell of your own making?
Well, in that I made the bunker and it has turned into a hell, you're exactly correct.
Does that make you feel anything in particular, any sense of irony?
Not really. If I was, say, a bunker salesman, then perhaps I would feel some semblance of irony in this situation. But in this case, I think it's just really, really unfortunate.
That is a shame. I suppose maybe we should put a PayPal donate button somewhere so people can donate you funds to get more air fresheners.
Or some sort of Kickstarter to get me out of the bunker.
I don't know about that. Because you're almost, in some ways, like a time capsule.
I am a human time capsule, but it's mostly full of sewage.
Remember those? Remember that was a thing that people used to do back in the day?
I do recall burying a time capsule at school and then immediately forgetting about it, which I don't... Is that the point of a time capsule?
I think so.
You forget about it until like 70 years later?
I think that is the point. And I'm glad that fad died off. Like, it was very much attached to the year 2000, people thinking about history and looking ahead and thinking about the next 1,000 years.
Yeah.
It seemed to be very much tied up in that idea of, right, let's leave something for the future generations. So we'll bury our shit in like a sterile plastic pill type thing and shove that in the ground and forget about it.
Thinking about it, I don't really agree with time capsules.
What, on an ideological level?
Yeah, because they're somehow simultaneously selfless and really, really arrogant. Because you're kind of just going, oh, we're leaving something. We'll never get the benefit of watching the people in 1,000 years opening this time capsule and finding all of this stuff. But at the same time, you're going, well, this crap that I have lying around my house or my classroom will, for some reason, be worthy of comment in 1,000 years' time.
So, in this case, the thing that is most of value in our time capsule that we've made is you.
Yeah. Because I was a man of the day.
And now you'll be preserved in liquid shit.
Which I think is, it's the best form of time travel, being encased, fossilized in shit.
And may I just commend you on your dignity and bravery going through this to be our time capsule from whatever year we're in. Because the last guy that we did the test run on, I mean, he did not shut up.
I feel like we did make a slight error in that we did try and bury it in an active volcano.
Well, it wasn't even that. I mean, it was the screaming and the blubbering and the, oh God, help me, help me, help me. We threw in this big sterile pill-looking thing.
Was it entirely necessary to like vacuum seal it? So we put him in the pill and then we sucked all of the air out of it. And I'm still slightly lost as to why we did that.
It looked good through the porthole, though.
Yeah.
But this is a real one. This is, like, never mind the podcast. That will die. That will decay on the airwaves. That will just vaporize. No. It'll be your body that will be the time capsule for the future. Are you ready to move on to the quandaries of the day?
Have we done schemes?
Was
that the time capsule thing? Was that a scheme?
I guess that kind of was a scheme. I don't know if it's going to make it into the final cut.
Well, that's fine. You'll just have to cut out all that bit where you said that there were 3 segments or regions, whatever you decided to call them in the end.
Well, the regions don't have to be occupied.
They can be barren, post-apocalyptic regions.
Like the area near where you are broadcasting from.
Yep. Basingstoke.
The topic that I do have for this week that I really wanted to talk about... In fact, do you remember? It was on the running order. Do you remember what it was?
I believe it is autumn (fever).
Yes. Now, are you aware of autumn?
As in the season?
Yes, the season.
Known to our stateside cousins as fall.
Or the fall, which
the fall.
Sounds pretty melodramatic if you ask me a little bit too much.
Yeah,
but...
you have one of those every single year. I mean, you're not going to get anything else done. I'm aware of autumn as a concept, yes.
Of course you are. And do you know why you're aware of it?
Because it's drummed into us from an early age, sort of a form of seasonal propaganda.
Yes. Yes, now this is exactly what I was going to get to. In fact, I'm now suspicious that I mentioned this beforehand, but no matter. Autumn is a strange time of year because autumn doesn't make any sense.
No.
I mean, as a season, it's fine, but I feel like that as a child, we are exposed to autumn a disproportional amount.
Yeah.
As in, it kind of surrounds our world, especially at school. For some reason, schools put an unnecessary amount of emphasis on autumn. I remember a lot of schooling that mostly revolved around the concept of autumn in a variety of ways.
I do remember an oddly large number of occasions where I was called on to draw a leaf purely because it was interesting colours and no longer attached to a tree.
I mean, there's this weird kind of obsession at school with leaves that are different in terms of colour and location.
Have you been reading my diary? Because that's what it says on almost every page. I don't know why I've created a diary for this. I could just write that on a big piece of paper and stick it to my wall.
That would be a poster rather than a diary, but...
It would, and obviously that would defeat the point.
It is weird, right? Because I feel that this is a shared experience that most people will have had, and that may be limited to people who were children around the same era that we were children. Because this may have changed in recent years, but I suspect not. It did seem to be the case that autumn was severely over-scrutinised at school, and, as I say, disproportionately so to the other periods of the year.
I don't feel like I ever had a single lesson about summer.
No. I think it was possibly because summer was too exciting, because that's when everyone just left. They just left the building.
Kids just go absolutely insane at summer. I feel like you probably don't want to be reminding them of that period of time at any other point during the year.
Which makes me think that we knew an unnecessary amount of information about autumn. Back at school, as I say, autumn was a big deal. I mean, it was a big, important event for some reason. And we had autumn down as kids. We knew autumn back to front. Do you remember the word deciduous?
Yes, I do. It refers to a type of tree.
A tree that...
You have lost me.
It sheds its leaves in autumn time. They turn a lovely yellowy, then golden browny, then reddy, and then they fall.
And then they die. And we teach children about mortality through autumn.
And this is the thing. Deciduous was a word that I knew at one point. But clearly it wasn't important to my life, because I have now promptly forgot it. I had to look that up. You didn't know. We both had spent these unnecessary amount of time with the concept of autumn, and yet we did not retain this knowledge at all. It was erased by our hard drive brains that decided that file hasn't been opened since it was last mentioned when we were 8. It just got deleted.
Would you say that autumn is the least useful thing that children learn at school?
Well, it could be, because I'm pretty sure if you handed young me a huge ring binder of unlabelled evergreen and deciduous trees, I could probably have them all identified with a fair degree of accuracy within 20 minutes.
In some weird form of woodland rain man kind of recall.
I don't think this is specific to me. I think most kids, unless they're slightly
broken.
Well, yeah, they're a bit of a write-off.
Yeah.
Most kids will be able to do this, and yet you hit the age of 13, it goes immediately just out the window, forgotten.
You don't do a GCSE about autumn.
This is the other weird thing. I've been looking at worksheets. Do you remember worksheets at school?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of bringing back a form of Vietnam-style flashback. It's making me anxious.
Well, this is the thing. It's like a fever dream. It is like a fever dream. It is like this weird, distorted time. It's very strange. Lots of words are being thrown at you, which is why originally I was going to go with autumn, but I didn't quite get across what my experience of this term was as a child. Autumn fever seems to more accurately describe my now PTSD type relationship I have with these types of worksheets and various work projects that we were assigned again and again and again as children. And the thing that I hated the most about the worksheets was that we didn't have a colour photocopier at our school. I don't know about you, but our school clearly was trying to cut budgets, put more money in back pocket of headmistress or whatever.
Did you just get political about your primary school?
Oh, don't get me started on primary school. Don't get me started on that. So we didn't have coloured worksheets, so we were given black and white ones, and then we had to colour them in ourselves.
In what vague memories I have of them, they seem like a way for primary school teachers to just have an extra 20-minute break during the day.
That is essentially it. You don't really learn anything. there's not really anything important. There's not any new knowledge to be gained here. They just kind of throw out words at you and concepts and just sort of like... I mean, look, I'm going to send you a worksheet. Don't ask me why I've been looking through primary school work syllabuses.
I would be terrified to ask anyway.
Well, don't worry. I had incognito mode on when I was searching for children's homework.
Oh my god, clear history.
Yeah, well, exactly. Quite. So this is a children's worksheet called Autumn Words. And this kind of encapsulates my memories of autumn. It is a black and white printout.
Yeah.
With just a title that says Autumn Words on it and just a list of words, of concepts just being thrown at you.
Yeah.
As a young, impressionable mind. We got apples, harvest, season, bat, scarecrow, ripe,
rake,
migration,
jack-o'-lantern,
scary,
acorns,
pumpkins.
Yeah, we have all of these words.
This is a traumatizing thing for a child to experience, I feel. Because not only do you have to complete these weird rituals around various colours and bird flight paths, you then have to, you're going to then experience it again and again and again. Like, same again next year, kids. Let's get out the worksheet.
Yeah.
I have one worksheet here called Fun Sheet for Beginners, where it says... In autumn, you collect apples in a basket.
For the winter season, come on.
3 kids are playing in the autumn leaves. It's almost like autumn isn't a real natural occurrence, and you use the term propaganda, and it's almost like the idea is being sold to you as a child. Like, oh, this is important, this is a real time. Yeah, sure, it's not the time of year where you get presents or chocolate or have fun, but, look, there's a root vegetable of some sort.
There does seem to be a lot of emphasis during autumn. This has just occurred to me. I haven't thought about this because I don't think about autumn generally.
I know, it's useless. As soon as you get out of school, you forget it. Gone. Out the airlock.
There seems to be a lot of emphasis on sort of scavenging and like scavenging to sustain you through the barren winter months.
Like it could be almost like a Hunger Games-esque style survivalist type thing that's being drilled into you as a kid.
While we were talking, I was just trying to envisage some sort of situation where the knowledge that I have buried deep in the recesses of my brain to do with autumn actually comes in useful and helps me get out of some kind of situation.
Please share.
I'm drawing a blank. I don't know what kind of situation the fact that deciduous trees leaves turn a different colour at different times of the year and pumpkins come out and there's something to do with pilgrims, but we're British so we don't really know what that's all about. I don't know how any of this information would help me get out of some kind of life-threatening situation.
Well, let me share this with you. This is clearly a mind map that has been designed to... Are mind maps the same as brainstorms?
No, but I know what you're talking about. I'm sure everyone else viewing this does as well.
This has clearly been produced for a teacher to use, and it's supposed to be sort of ideas to get you thinking about autumn. And again, it seems to fit the kind of sort of apocalypse now, shell shock, fever dream-like quality these memories I now associate with. So there's just a list of different things. Pumpkin soup. Batty about bats. Room on the broom. Things that go bump in the night. Autumn walk. Autumn nature table. Halloween clothes or costumes. Be aware of nut allergies.
See, mention of Halloween there. They try and lump it in as part of autumn, but Halloween is its own thing. It's its own entity, and I feel like autumn is almost just piggybacking on the success of Halloween, like the commercial, sometimes critical success of Halloween, and they're just going, well, we've got this like flagging, pointless, middle-of-the-road season. What could we try and do to make it more successful? I know, we'll just piggyback on the success of Halloween. That's just around the corner, right?
And it's not going to compare. I mean, they go on about Harvest. The Harvest. Such a big event when you're a kid. I don't even know what Harvest is anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a day or a time of year or a sort of a period or just this kind of nebulous concept that people celebrate at random points during the year.
The only defining memory I have of Harvest noticed is my school used to have a harvest festival.
Yes, the Harvest Festival. That wasn't fun or festive.
No, it seemed like the only thing that ever happened with the Harvest Festival was we went to a church and took some tinned goods. And I mean, I really could have used those tinned goods for my post-apocalyptic bunker, honestly.
So where's your Harvest Festival now?
Yeah.
Now that the cupboard is bare.
It is bare. Because I gave all my tinned goods to the bloody Harvest Festival.
Well, exactly. And were you given awful bread? We were given awful bread.
Yeah.
Unleavened bread, I think is what it's called.
That was pretty awful as bread goes.
Yeah, like really bad. Just awful bit of bread stuffed into your child's mouth.
Not even like, oh, this would probably make good toast.
Like, I wouldn't even put it in soup.
No.
I mean, this whole thing is weird, and this is what I wanted to get to, right? I put it to you that in these documents that I've collected, right, in this research that I've done,
Yeah.
that there must be a warning of some kind, or like a prophecy, or a ritual, or some sort of teaching, or some kind of mythology or some practice that's being repeated year after year after year up until about the age of puberty, I'd say. Then it sort of goes away. Then it just kind of disperses from our life. It's almost like we're going through tests or trials, or there's some hidden meaning contained within these files somewhere, and they're just blasting us with concepts, hoping that one of us will, I don't know, work out the code or put it together in the right way, or find the golden conker, or get lost in a big pile of leaves and get burned as a sacrificial offering or something.
So do you think that somewhere out there in the world where we are frankly still pretty ignorant about autumn, aside from the weird knowledge that we've gathered as children, do you think that there's some kind of group of shadowy figures who are known as
the Autumn Children?
Who are the children who were like good at the autumn part of the primary school curriculum, and it's something sunk in, maybe something clicked inside their heads, and they just became what they needed to be, and we were just like the rejects from that process?
I can only surmise that this must be the case. I mean, what else could it be?
So there could be some kind of secretive organization out there who can, I don't know, predict major world events through the turning of the leaves.
I decided to dig a little bit deeper here.
Dangerous.
You
could run afoul of the Autumn Children.
Well, yes, this is the thing, right? I started to look at more documents.
Okay,
and I went on the government website for the national curriculum, and I searched through all the various curriculums that they provide for primary school and a little bit over, and I went through every fucking document they have and did a search for autumn. Do you know how many times the word autumn appears?
How many?
Not once.
Not once. So the government are not telling teachers to teach children about autumn.
Autumn is not on the national curriculum anywhere. I searched through hundreds of pages of PDF files using the auto search term, looking for one word, autumn. It does not appear anywhere. I could give you file after file after file. One here I've got Science Programmes of Study, Key Stage 4, National Curriculum in England, December 2014. Autumn appears not a once. Even seasonal isn't even in there. So, what does that tell me? I feel like this is the moment, like in the film, where I burst into your office and my jacket has been discarded, my shirt sleeves are sort of, ruffled and rolled up, my tie is loosened and askew, I haven't showered in a while, I've got a bit of coffee breath on, and I slam like 9 heavy folders down on your desk and scream at you, not once, and all this is autumn mentioned anywhere. And then you sort of like nod and say, thank you, gentlemen. You say that even though there's only me standing there, you say, thank you for bringing this to my attention, I'll take it from here. And you show me to the door, and then as soon as the door is closed, you walk over to the phone and make a call in order to have me dealt with. And then you sort of like pour yourself a scotch and place the barrel of a revolver in your mouth and pull the trigger.
I mean, that would be my immediate reaction if you had discovered some sort of autumnal conspiracy. I don't feel like you have. I mean, so You've done some research. You've quick searched through some PDFs on the government website. Unless you're kind of going through old microfiche like Dick Tracy, I'm not convinced that you've done enough research to convince me of a conspiracy. But then again, perhaps that's exactly what the Autumn Children want me to think.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that there must be some meaning in all of this. So I'm going to accept the narrative of the Autumn Children.
Okay.
Which I'm going to make a note of. Okay.
Yeah.
Autumn Children. There we go. Right. I'm going to have to make sure I eat this note.
Yeah.
Because I don't want any record that we've written this down, discovered their faction.
Yeah, you just have to memorize it like you memorized all of those facts about autumn.
Yeah.
And then just quickly eat it.
Yeah. I'm not going to eat it on the podcast. I'll do it later with dinner. I'll just have it as like a side,
Yeah.
I think. Because, it's a bit much.
Bit of gravy.
Well, yeah. I'm going to go for that, I think, because I would much prefer to believe in a sort of a national level conspiracy to do with children's education. I'd much prefer to believe in that than dare try and accept that we simply had hundreds of hours of our lives as children wasted by adults who frankly should know better. And it would be as if, I don't know, teachers couldn't really be bothered to come up with a proper lesson plan after the summer and just looked out the bloody window and thought, screw it, that's almost like education. Hey kids, why is that tree a bit different? Oh, what? You don't know what deciduous means, you ugly little bastard. Right, as punishment, you've all got to learn about swallows and pumpkins while I work off this hangover.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it, by which I mean, I think there is a conspiracy.
Yeah, there must be. There fucking must be. Because the only other way that this could be expressed would be that maybe I have some feelings of resentment of having my time wasted, and it's being brought out in this attempt to waste everyone else's time. Or, as I'd like to refer to it as, how do you fucking like it?
So, curiosity and intrigue about some kind of proposed seasonal conspiracy is preferable to resentment against your primary school teachers.
Yes, and it fits exactly with the rule that you laid down today, which was it no cynicism?
No cynicism.
There we are, right. I am absolutely terrified, though, of Google searching the term Autumn Children just on the off chance that we are actually correct.
It's possible you might have stumbled into some sort of Slender Man type situation where we've just invented it in our own minds, and yet if we search it on the internet, it will become real.
Like it's kind of like an ontological existence, as in if the concept proves to be full and total within our minds, then by its own conceptual definition, it must exist. If it is to be this terrifying and pervasive thing, then by that definition, it must therefore exist. And so it leaps into existence out of your own mind when you give it body and flesh in a Google search.
Well, I mean, that's more or less what happened with this podcast, isn't it?
I think so. And just so you know, I did just Google Autumn Children. You end up with a load of young kids in various piles of leaves, throwing leaves up in the air.
I sort of hope you used incognito again.
I didn't.
Oh, you're on the radar now.
They've caught me.
They have. The Autumn Children will find you.
The only problem here is that they're aware of us now. They're aware of the podcast. They're taking notes on us. So it's not necessarily that they're going to break through the window and suck our souls out through our eyeballs or something.
That's too obvious and not nearly insidious enough.
So for now, we're just, we're a note on the file, just scribbled on the bottom of a corner of a bit of paper somewhere. Maybe in a folder that's marked semi-important, and we're just going to be in an out tray for the next few months before it gets moved up. So I think we've got some time.
We've got some time to just get out ahead of this, this global conspiracy that we're facing.
Are we sure that it's global?
I think we're going to have to try and hear from some of our American viewers just to see if there's the same level of education surrounding fall as there is around autumn.
Yeah, because I think they're going to be very, very confused by the word autumn. I don't think they know what it means.
No. It has two similar consonants right next to each other. I think that's just a minefield.
Autumn.
I believe that's the correct pronunciation.
Well, I think we've outed ourselves as anti-Autumn Children conspiracy activists.
I think we have it. Are we calling that mission accomplished?
I wouldn't say accomplished, but I am declaring victory.
All right. I'll buy into that as well.
If anyone's going to get executed or assassinated, I think it's actually going to be our teachers rather than us, because clearly they failed, because we have uncovered, we've thrown back the curtain and seen a glimpse of a leafy shadow sort of diving out the window. And so I think before they turn to the problem, which is us, they'll take care of their own leaks. Their own internal affairs to begin with.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we will receive more information on the Autumn Children. Any viewers out there who want to send us your theories and any evidence that you have, please use a secure means of communication. Let's see, how can we securely communicate with our audience? Tweet it.
Yeah.
Is that, do the government know what a tweet is?
I'm not sure they do. I think they've tried to learn, but it's sort of like when you try and teach an elderly relative about that sort of thing. They understand all or most of the words, but they don't really grasp the necessary technical knowledge behind it.
Like, can I read my email on Gmail?
Yeah, or like going on Facebook and typing in, "Where is my grandson?"
There is literally no way I can help that person.
No.
Although I am now going to start writing on all the missing persons reports I see. Reports? I don't see reports. I mean, the posters that I see around town. I will start writing the Autumn Children on the back of the poster.
On the back?
Yeah. Where they wouldn't think to look. Although I have to admit, I am already in a bit of trouble with the local constabulary for nailing scrolls to the community notice board that I, go to when I'm walking around the place, giving out proclamations.
And all those times that you just set fire to big piles of autumnal leaves.
Yeah, believing that I've caught one in there.
And I mean, you do shout that when you do it as well. "I've caught one!"
He's in there! Don't look. Do we need a closing gambit, like a sort of like a snappy, a hook to keep them back?
Didn't have an opening one. I don't see much point in having a closing one.
No, we could sort of do these podcasts like they begin and end in medias res.
They're just sort of a snapshot of time.
These could have been produced like years ago or years in the future, and then because of a time capsule, they've recently been unearthed.
Yeah.
Right? That's how that works.
Yeah.
Like you can go into a time capsule and warn everyone in the future about Hitler.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that will work. I'm not an expert in that area.
In fact, we should have a topic list. I'm going to put it for, let's see. Oh, God, we've got too many topics. Okay, week 28.
I was wondering why there was a gap there.
I'm going to call it the Hitler problem.
The Hitler problem.
Yeah, but I don't want to mention Hitler at all on this podcast.
Okay.
So I'm going to call it... what's another German word? The Krankenschwester problem.
Okay.
Krankenschwester. I think I spelled that correctly.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, I think there's a W in there somewhere.
I believe it is there. That's a Q. There we go.
There we go. The Krankenschwester problem. No doubt I will remember what that means when we get to that.
I'm sure you will.
I'm not going to end on that. No, okay. Just leave nice feedback next time, please, because it really hurt my feelings. So,
Yeah.
please.
Don't call Theo a pisser again.